hit
Cool.
start recording on there. Since we're not live streaming this one, I'm just doing a simple uh, desktop record, essentially.
Sure.
And then you said you prefer us to either call you Gunny or Blue.
Blue.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So Scott's my first name, but my father's Scott.
Mm.
And so I've always gone by my middle name, except for business. Um, this is not business in my eyes. So
Well,
and I consider friends and family.
A. Okay, so we're all set.
yeah. Say we're all
Okay,
set.
alrighty. We'll start with the opening. Hey, bro, what's up? I'm Vin,
I'm Jeff.
and welcome to our podcast. This week is about sadness with our guest, Gunny.
Gunny. I'm the Gunny, or you can refer to me as Blue.
Either. So we're going to be talking about different experiences like that we've personally gone through, and we're hoping that you'll share some of yours as well, Gunny, on how at any point during our lives, like we've dealt with sadness, depression, how it affected us at that time, and things that worked for you or worked for us that helped us get through those difficult times. We do like to start with a quote of the week, which, since you don't have that in front of you, I'll go ahead and do it this week. So, our quote of the week is: "Every man has his secret sorrows, which the world knows not, and oftentimes we call a man cold when he is only sad." And that is Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. So,
Uh,
what you got, Ben?
wanted to try to add in like a um, discussion of the quote of the week. So, Gunny, if you had any ideas, any thoughts on this quote?
So in hearing it for the first time, and thinking back into my life, there are times when, as a man, um, or even as a young man, um, things get difficult, and it's really easy for us as men or young men to just kind of box ourselves in. And once we box ourselves in, others have an appearance of us that we may not understand, that we portray or put off,
Right.
but that energy is received one way or another by everyone that you come in contact with. Most of the time, and it's just like service members. We can see each other, like we know who each other is. When we see another one out on the streets, we know that they're a veteran or not a veteran, or an impersonator. We know who we are. We see each other. And as men and young men, it's the same way. We see each other. We see what's going on. And most of the time, we just kind of go, man, it sucks. He's struggling. And we brush on and move on about our days, which is the horrible part, because we know and understand. We know and understand what's going on. However, we just keep marching. My stuff's important. I gotta focus on it because we have our own 100 million things going on.
Well
That's
spoken.
kind of what brings to my mind is that, like, we portray this image, and what we're doing at the time is internalizing everything. We internalize everything. We're trying to process everything that's going on, no matter what it is, and in that we box up. We just become, yep, I'm focused. I do work. I'm committed to work. Go home, kids. Try to be somewhat of a husband and a wife, provider for, and Bedtime, back to work. Oh my gosh. And we see other men struggling. We know what it is, but we just move on about our business because we're in the same we're in the same mode. We're in the same boat.
I can actually agree to that. There's been many times, like thinking back on it, where being in school, college, military, or even in my adult working life, where I've seen some of my friends, and I'm like, he looks like he's not having a very good day today. So, anyways, let me get back to what I was doing. Like, it's kind of
Right.
interesting to think about how
And
many times that's come up, and I'm like, why didn't I at least ask? Hey man, you all right?
and and the surprising thing that happens when you do that is, oh, my dogs are nuts.
That's okay.
Is the the person that's in that, um like it happened just recently with me. I'm a sound guy for a band and go follow the gigs around and do that thing. Um, and one of the guys is away from his family, and I could see it. He just he wasn't there. Like he was there, but he just get work, get done, get because on the other end of that, he was going to get to see his family. And being in the military, I've seen this crap before numerous times. Um, and I talked to his boss and was like, hey, he ain't doing okay. You want to check on him? He goes, man, why are you worried about it?
That's a pretty
I
typical
and
response. Like, you either get the "that's none of your business" or "why are you concerned about it."
right. And then it turned to, well, he'll be going to see his family, on Sunday, so it'll be fine. He'll be fine. And and that wasn't the point. The point wasn't, is he going to be fine? Because we use that word like it's, you know, I hate to say it, like a lot of people use the word love. They really don't know it's a verb, but they throw it out there like it's a noun, like it's a descriptor.
Right.
And to me, those things are horrible, but he wasn't fine. And when I talked to him, it really changed him, just me acknowledging that he had those emotions, those feelings, missing, homesick, my kids, my grandkids, and uh, hey, bro, I see you and I see you struggling. Are you gonna be okay? He was like, yeah, I think I'll be okay. Thank you. I appreciate it. It was like I assisted taking some of the weight off his shoulders.
And I'm sure that made you feel pretty good to actually be able to be there and help somebody.
Well, and for me as a retired gunny, it's like deja vu back to military times. Lance Corporal Smuckatelli, his missing mommy and his sister, or whatever the case. Smuckatelli's married and we're deployed and he's missing. This is his first time away from home. And I've been there, done that. I've seen it. So when I saw it again, it was like, hey, yo, you need to go check on him, dude, because he's not doing okay. Oh, he'll be fine. Oh, here we go.
The
Got it.
typical man up.
He's Yep, yep. Cowboy up, man up.
And we've touched on that here on the show before, on how often as young men we're told, "Oh, man up, be a man, you'll be fine."
Hmm.
And that instills, like, it just digs deep into your body, and it's hard to move past when you get older.
It is, and the funny thing about it is, I watch a lot of reels and things of that nature, and I come across a reel, and it's a female psychologist, and she's up on stage and giving a speech, and she's talking about, well, in my first 10 years of doing my doctrine or whatever, I was focused on this, and I was giving speeches, and at the end of the speech I do book signings, and I give my spill, and this gentleman walks up and he's holding three books and sets them down for me, and he says, well, I hope you enjoy, or she says, I hope you enjoyed And he says, "Oh, I did." I said, and he says, "It's interesting though how nowhere in your studies of depression or any mental issues do you talk or discuss men." She goes, "Oh, well, I don't understand." And he goes, "Well, it's just convenient that you don't study men because these three gals behind me, I get emotional. Ooh, they would sooner see me die on my white horse than to see me fall." And I wear that. And because of that, that young, I'm fine, and oh, man up. Then we get to adult life and we get married and have children. And now we have the same shit that we had before we had a wife and kids.
Or worse.
And but yeah, but now we have a wife and kids. And oh my God. Whew. Um, and that as soon as I heard that from her, and she gets choked when she explains it, but it really made sense in the fact that yeah, as young men we push man up and do this, do that, but then we get to be grown men and wife and kids and maybe grandkids, and we're like, holy, I I don't I
I
don't
don't
know
know
how
how to
to I
process this.
didn't know how to process this shit when it was just me. Now I got all this other stuff too, and we we have that feeling that these people, whoever your people are, would sooner see you die on that valiant steed than to see you fall. And it's not anything other than the social norms. And I hate using norms, because what's normal?
You know, normal's different for every other person, but it is something that is kind of instilled in society these days.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of brings up a interesting thought though. Like, I'm in my 30s,
Mm-hmm.
and that statement, like, they'd rather see me die than fall. Like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking of my father. I'm in my
Yep.
30s, and I've seen that man cry twice in my life.
Right. Probably when his father passed away,
That was one of them.
and probably his mother.
Nope, Grandma's still in the picture. The second one was walking my sister down the aisle.
Yep. That
But
would have. Yep.
those are the only two,
Got me.
three times. Three times. When I told him I was going
Uh-oh.
to Afghanistan.
Oh yeah.
That one got him too.
Yep.
But yeah, three times
But
in 30 years.
and you think about it, and you think about that statement, and it was even more so for that generation, and go back another generation, those that were World War II veterans. That was a norm. That was the norm. And the things that they're discovering now about us, the PTSD and how much it affects us. Well, you're two generations late
Right.
at least, and these guys dealt with that kind of mental issues as an additive to the already male ego type bullshits that we get inflated with. Nobody's losing their shit. It's just not you. Sorry, the neighbor gal's upset now because the
That's okay.
U-Haul's in.
It's all good.
So the daughter's friend's upset and all brokenhearted.
So we've kind of touched on it already, but like to kind of give it in a bigger perspective, like for the typical man dealing with sadness and like those lower feelings usually leads to like a sense of loneliness, like in your own head. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Um, and I think that's just a part of how we are taught as young boys how to deal with things. Um, and I'm now a grandfather of four children, four infants. All of them are under 5. But when the boys fall down, oh, you're fine, dust yourself off. And there's nothing wrong with that. However, that starts that self-soothing portion. And I can say for me, I never learned appropriately as a young boy how to properly self-soothe and and get through those painful or depressing or sad moments, whatever they may be. And our perspective of what makes us sad changes when we're little guys in comparison to when we're in grade school and then into middle school. And the things that bothered us when we were young kids isn't the same as what bothers us as older young men or men in their older age. I'm 46. Shit still sneaks up and kicks me every now and then.
46 years young, sir.
Oh yeah.
I would say, even if you had known how to express it or knew how to cope with it, I think would you agree that you would still have felt lonely? Because I think another part of with sadness and loneliness is that a lot of times you don't feel like anybody really understands you. And most likely most people around you aren't even can't even understand what you're going through. What you're experiencing.
Yeah, I think so. However, like as I watch my grandchildren um grow, and go through those bumps and bruises moments, you know, brother running around the corner carrying his little saddle horse thing between his legs and bonk into sister, those are the things that happen growing up. But the difference is when a person of value to that child, right? Because and we understand that they may not be exactly a stranger. However, Uncle Tom is not exactly someone that they look to and go, "Ooh, I can fight in him. I trust him." But if they find someone that they do trust or that is there and says, "Hey, you're okay, aren't you? Are you okay?" and and is there for the reassurance that you're not alone. I'm here. Are you going to be all right? And isn't just hey, get up and dust yourself off. Come on, go on about your business. Now that's a lot different. So the child is left to figure it out on their own at that point. Whereas if someone that they trust or that they confide in is there to say, "Hey, you're okay. Are you okay? You're all right, right, buddy? Okay, dust yourself off and go on about there you go. See, you're all right. Go ahead and play." It builds and starts that self-soothing, like, no, I will be okay. I'll be all right. Yeah, I'll be okay because Pop is here, or Nana's here, or mom, or dad, or brother, or cousin, whatever. If that person is someone that they confide in or trust, I think it's a lot different than if they get that the way I received it. Dust yourself off, you're fine. Go on about your business.
Right. So
Okay.
a pretty strong argument could be made for that then, like at the younger years, having that close knit relationship with someone to confide in could lead to better habits down the road. But for people in our
Oh,
generation,
absolutely.
like, that was few and far between, because I had a very similar upbringing to you, where, like, when I got hurt or if I was upset or I was sad, it was, you'll be all right, go away. Like, shoot.
Right.
Which for me personally led to, okay, well, now I've got to learn how to deal with everything on my own,
Mm-hmm.
which led to a lot of loneliness, and especially in my teenage years, like, I didn't feel like I had anyone, like, if I was going through anything, that I could talk to, whether it was something as small as, fell off my bike and scraped up my leg. Okay, well, gotta be a man, suck it up. Or, girlfriend broke up with me. Okay, well, shit happens, gotta deal with it, move on. Like, to me, like, I just had me. Like, I had, my few friends, but I don't know, I put off like an image so I would never go to them with things. It wasn't until I was older where I was like, you know what? I need somebody to talk to.
Yep. And as a military man, and it was weird because my wife is going through it now with her friends and us moving. And earlier on in our relationship, my wife had noticed that I don't have friends. I have acquaintances that I talk to when I see them at the bar or I see them at the grocery store. I'm They're acquaintances. I'll call them friends, but they won't help me move. They're not, they're not coming over and grilling steaks over at the house. They don't invite me over for steaks at their house. And she noticed that and was like, why is that? And I said, I don't know if it's just as a young person, I moved a lot, or if it was military and me moving all the time. But like what you're going through with your girlfriend, you guys have talked about us moving for a month. Now she's busy. She has a thing and and now she can't help you. Well, I don't have that problem because I don't ever let anybody close enough. I don't ever let anybody in because every time that it's time for, hey, bro, hey, JB, I need some help, bro. Oh, well, no, my wife, and it's our anniversary and well, yeah, I gotta go see you. Oh, dang. Now what? Now who
Right.
do I call? And and it's funny because I had expressed in that conversation that we had earlier about the gentleman being homesick, I expressed to him, I said, it's it's okay to feel a way. There's nothing wrong with that. And so many times as young men, we learn, or that it's not that we learn, I guess we do learn. And this probably goes back to that in our younger years, that I'll be fine. I can't stop because I have to get this done, or whatever the case may be. And it's sad that we get to our adult age and then it's like, what's the matter? And some guys can't express what it is. They don't know. They have no idea, and they can't even tell you. They, why? What's the matter? Well, this, that, and the other. Well, okay. Well, are you having some sort of feeling? Well, I, I,
You get the whole, I
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
I'm going through some stuff.
Yeah,
Well, what are you going through?
yeah.
Just some stuff. I'll be all right.
I'll be fine. Hmm. Fine.
So
I hear
I have
you.
an interesting question for you then. So you had mentioned you don't really have too many friends like where you're at because you're used to moving all the time, and you never really let anybody in. Do you regret
Mhm.
that, or is that just more so something you learn to live with?
Um, I don't I don't regret um so let me answer this a little bit sideways and different. Um, and what I mean by that is I have a giant table and everyone is welcome. However, there's only a few I will eat. There's only a few that we will go and eat. But everybody is welcome. There will be a few that are there regardless, and those will be the ones that I will eat with. Everybody else, it will be something that, and this is kind of how I've become as a person, but it will be something that they look back on and go, damn, he he was that guy. He always was there. He always had the open table, the open invitation, the quote unquote open door policy. Anytime, call me. It's okay. And that's usually when we realize something that we should have known way before. Um, but most of the time, people look at it as I have a small table. Now, my table is huge and everyone is welcome. However, there's only a few that'll be there to eat, and and I'm okay with that, because I know you know firsthand. I'll do what I can for you, and anytime, any place. Um, it, you've heard the stories of some of my other when I was streaming, uh, why they were in my channel, why they ended up in my channel. DFan was the easiest one, but
I still remember the
do
first
you remember
night
his?
when I popped in just to kind of sit
The,
back and watch, and I ended up sitting there talking to you for 6.5 hours.
yeah, you wasn't even married then. You guys were
Nope.
still dating back then,
Mm-hmm.
wasn't you?
Yep.
Yeah,
And now we've
yeah.
been married. It'll be 4 years in October.
Wow. Congratulations. That's awesome. Yep. One of my fans, I don't know if you remember him or D fan. Um, I was streaming one night and I had a gentleman come in my channel and he was like, I'm so glad I'm here. I was like, yeah, so are we. And he goes, no, you don't understand. I was like, whoa, whoa, all right, wait, hold on, time out. Like I could feel it, what he was trying to say to me. And I stopped my game. I stopped my channel and I focused on him. And everybody was like, wait a minute, you just stopped your stream because he said he wasn't doing okay? I gave him my personal number and let him know, hey, you contact me, call me anytime. And I still somewhat keep track of him, um, to this day. But that was the only reason why DFan was one of my regular fans, was because he was there that day and was in my channel and watched and was like, holy cow. But then he was a regular and was there every time I turned my stream on.
I remember those days.
You.
Let's see here what we got. Vin, I feel like you haven't chimed in a while.
Hey, I'm letting the man speak. This is the guy that's been through it. I love listening. Um, yeah, I'll chime in when the time is right. But I really love listening in on you just Gunny, you just sound like you just have so much wisdom and experience, and uh, I didn't want to, I don't know, just let you talk. So even with a family, right? You're still, it's still like a struggle, like the impact of not having that social friend group, right? Still, it still weighs on you. So it shows of how important we talked on the first episode of having this good social group, a support group, right? and that includes the family and friends, right? It has to be like well balanced.
Absolutely. And I have a huge table and I explain that, but I still have though, like I can reach out to the guys, but it's almost, like JB, like, hey, I'm moving. Uh
Yeah.
well, it's Wednesday, so I could be there by Saturday morning. Um and but there are times that when things get rough for me, that those guys, they will call me, and um it's not anything other than it's buddy check time. Something's not right. I haven't seen or heard, or so I need to reach out, and they reach out, and I'm the same way with all of my contacts. Like if they come across my mind, then it's time to call them and see, hey, is everything okay? Are you doing okay?
You got a big
Yeah.
heart.
Mm,
Yeah. And that explains you're the literally the point you bring my point across of like I tell people, "Oh, I when I play games, I'm not playing truly for myself. I play it to keep in contact with all those friends that are, states miles across." Um yeah, because exactly is people move, people have lives, like life happens, and this is my way of putting in effort of making sure, we have that camaraderie, have that social group, making this podcast, right? Um, so yeah, yeah. So thank you for that. You're the kind of the first um not evidence. What's the word? Not epiphany. What is the word? Personification of, oh yes, well, this is what it looks like when when life happens and we don't have that social group. It does weigh on you.
yeah, and it uh, social media is hard for me,
Mm,
and I say that because uh, you can say I'm a conspiracy theorist or
sure.
whatever you want. However, there are things that you can look at that are real, that have happened, and that it's not me just saying it, but these things started off with good intentions. However, and it's only been recent that I had heard the quote of, that the road to hell is paved in good intentions. And as soon as I heard that, I was like, wow, that's heavy. That, like, and there's a movie I watched in regards to social medias, and it was um, some of the engineers that created the thumbs up, and they discuss and talk about the fact that that was not their intention, because what has happened is teenage girls in between this age to that age, their suicide rate has increased 400% from the start of thumbs up. And that is a perfect and very good example of something that it has its good intention to be able to reach out and contact and keep in contact. However, I think that it's become such an anchor for people that that's where life happens for them. And it somewhat causes some of the problems that we're dealing with. And from my opinion,
I could agree to that because, I mean, granted, I moved halfway across the country. I moved from central Illinois to South Texas and left pretty much everybody behind, but I essentially have to experience my family's lives through social media or via Snapchat or however.
right, that's more social media. And that is okay and that's good. However,
It's had a
so
lot of
many I find
negative effects as well.
right. There's so many that are so inundated with that, and that is life for them that it like I that's why I struggle. So I
And
still have stuff, but I only use it for communication.
I find it interesting you bring up the thumbs up because like that little icon has led to a big problem where a lot of the younger generation, this is men and women, they need that constant validation.
Yes.
And that's where they're getting it.
And
And
that
when they
and
don't get it, it leads to like fear of being left out or fear of rejection. Like, oh, if I don't get so many likes, that means, they don't care about me.
our topic, sadness and depression. And those are the things that, the engineers themselves were like, oh, this will be awesome. And when you look at it in its pure form, it is. It's that, hey, good job. And everybody knows that is a good thing. However, when you become inundated with that social media, you become that person that needs those things. And those things used to be provided by your real friends and family that used to be your neighbor. Like most people don't even know who neighbors are anymore. It that's one of the things that like is a sad part of us moving. The neighborhood that we live in, we know our neighbors and they look out for us and we look out for them. And it's almost like a step back into time. But the part of that is most of them are an older generation. So it's normal for them. It's not normal for them to see someone like me go, hey, my wife is better at it because I don't do well with talking with people, but they know who I am. She talks to them. I go meet them and say hi, and this is who I am. But those things have been replaced by social media. We don't have in real life friends, and that I think is the biggest killer of our social lives and our social structure. We have a whole generation and probably two generations that they will not know how to communicate with people in front of them. Text me, call me,
It's all through a
but
screen.
won't be able to. But yeah, look at McDonald's. My father's generation hates McDonald's now. My, JB, you'll remember this gentleman, but Red Rock Panda from Australia
I still check on
came
it
to
from time to
America.
time.
He came to America and we went and was in Vegas for a couple few days. He he walked into a McDonald's. My wife was gambling. I don't he walked off to McDonald's. He walked back a couple minutes later without any food. Hey dude, he goes, I stood in there and I didn't see any. There was nobody there. I didn't know what to do. Everything's kiosk. He goes, I wanted to talk to somebody because I don't want this, I want that, and I want this. And if I can't talk to somebody, I don't know how to tell the computer. So even my generation is pushing back on this kiosk everything, which from my perspective just breeds that it's not my job. Well, call customer service. And it doesn't matter. Go to customer service. Like you get the worst customer service ever because people are their interactions with human beings is limited and very horrible.
And it's going to continue to go downhill, which, truthfully, I think is going to lead to more depression down the road. Like, because people are going to. I mean, it's already starting to happen. Like, there's that lack of human connection. And I think in the younger
Mhm.
generations, we're going to see a bigger spike than we already see in young men of depression because they're not going to know how to communicate like at all. Like we've discussed not being able to communicate like negative emotions with, you know, the older generations, like they were told to suck it up, whatever, so they don't know how to express that. But now we're going towards a road where they're not going to know how to express anything.
Right, right. Because unless there's an emoji, unless there's an emoji of some kind, they don't know how to express what they feel. They just know what it looks like on a keyboard.
Right.
And to me, that's it's so hard because it's all around us, and so it is convenient. However, I ran into an issue earlier today. I make an appointment, need my tires rotated, make my appointment, show up to my appointment. I'm 5 minutes early. The gentleman next to me that is checking in just before me, he's checking in way early for his appointment. His appointment's not for another 15 minutes after mine. Well, the gentleman asks where my keys are, tell him, hey, the car's running. He goes out to my vehicle, keys are in it, grabs my keys, walks into the office. My car sat there for 15 minutes. I turned and looked. The gentleman that checked in for a 3:30 appointment, I was there for the 3:15. His vehicle was almost done. Mine was still out front in the parking spot, running. I walked back up to the gentleman. I said, hey, I made an appointment. This doesn't make sense to me. He says, oh, well, once you make the appointment, it's the first available bay. Uh, okay. I told him the sequence of events. He goes, well, I know, I was standing there. I said, so what you're telling me doesn't make sense because I was here prior to my appointment. What's the point of making an appointment then? Well, that's just the way it works. It's in case we have a really busy schedule and there's a 2 hour wait time. Wait. So you make an appointment and then you got to wait 2 hours? Again, I go back to what, and the gentleman couldn't communicate with me and understand what I was communicating to him. I was upset you made me make an appointment and then you pretty much just told me, yeah, you're next. Then what did I make an appointment?
I can
And
see the
and he
frustration with
couldn't
that.
communicate back. Right. And he couldn't communicate back to me and was upset because I didn't see it his way. So then I won't ever see it your way. I'm the customer. I don't care that you have to potty. I don't care that it's your sandwich break. That's none of my. I don't care. I made an appointment. I was told be here, do this, do that, and you pretty much told me next. I'm after that dude that scheduled an appointment after. I don't understand, but because I don't understand you telling me that's just how it is, get over it. Like and it was funny. The gentleman that did the work on the vehicle comes in. Hey, is there anything I can do for you? I just asked for the gentleman's name if it was on the ticket because I was just going to call corporate. I'm just going to call his boss and talk to him and say, hey, I got a problem with this guy. It's not the whole shop. It's not everybody. Me and this dude stood there and talked for a couple few minutes. And he goes, look, is there anything I can do for you? I said, look, no, there's nothing that you can do. I mean, I appreciate you doing the work and I just needed to. And he goes, look, I'm sorry. And I said, that's all I needed. Like I I understand there's miscommunications and all, but he stood there and defended the whole thing and you just apologized and said, I understand your frustration. I understand. I see it. And I'm sorry for that. He was telling me, get over it. Like, no, dude, I'm gonna make you get over it. I was very frustrated. I walked out. I had to walk out. I was losing my shit. And it was funny because I could feel myself carrying in there. But at the same time, I look around and everybody's standing there like, he's got a point. I mean, pissed me off too if I made an appointment and you just shafted me like that. The dude that came in that had an appointment after me got done before me. He left before his appointment was even 4. And I had to wait that extra time. So everybody was standing around like,
Can you imagine having to do that at the
and those
doctor?
and that's what I told the gentleman that did the work. I said, look, I do the same thing at a doctor's office because my time is just as important as your time. No, 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 no. I get it. If you got some emergency room surgery thing that's way different. But if you just in your office bullshitting with the nurse, talking about your fishing trip, and I'm in the waiting room for 45 minutes because you're busy and you had to go pee and you had to. So my time's not important, but your time is. And I told the gentleman that did my tire rotation, I was like, I'm the same way in the doctor's office. My time's just as important and just as precious as his. He thinks that he makes more money because he's a doctor, that makes his time more important. I think that's a fallacy that sucks.
Let's see. We haven't even gotten to like anything on depression yet. We've touched on like sadness and stuff, but
I Depression, I think, is a constant battle, and I think it is a constant battle from the time we're young. There are things that we experience. There's things that we go through that will trigger a sadness, and that sadness, if not um, fixed, and I use that very loosely, but if it's not addressed, if that sadness is not fixed, then it does turn into depression. And that depression will follow you. And from my experience, it just compounds. It's that, you know, it's almost the Murphy's Law. If it could go wrong, it's going to. And, that negative self-talk becomes so habitual that your depression just keeps piling and piling and piling until it gets to a point where you don't even know how to talk. You don't even know how to talk, let alone talk about it.
I mean, the way I always looked at
But
it, I can't remember. Can't remember the guy's name. Like it's Greek mythology, but the god that's doomed to push that boulder up the mountain for eternity. That's kind of how I've always pictured depression. Of just that constant battle of pushing that boulder up the hill, and anything and everything is
right.
stopping you from pushing that boulder up the hill.
And that's why I say I think it's a constant battle. And it if you learn at a young cope with your sadness and sad moments and sad times. And I think that that's something that is, I don't know, it's almost depression to me is, um, it should be a momentary part of time for you. And what I mean by that is things happen and life happens. And that's factual. Nobody can stop it. That's time.
Right.
And we're all born with one guarantee that you're gonna die. And there's no if, ands, or buts about it. And anything living is on its timeline. It has its timeline. So as young children, we get animals or things, and those things have a lifetime, a lifespan. And that is a trigger for a sad moment. However, you need to be able to cope with it and be able to understand that it is okay. You will be okay. And it's okay to feel this way. You just can't feel this way forever.
Which is a skill a
And
lot
in
of people are lacking nowadays. Because I know I personally didn't learn how to cope with any of that till I was in my 20s.
right, right. And you're like at least 17 years late then, from my perspective. That you should have had some sort of start to that at your toddler age, at that 3, when you're learning to walk and run, smash stuff, mainly yourself. But it's growing up, it's life. And I think many of us don't learn because, like I explained, I think it was to my aunt the other day, the fact that as parents, it's horrible because we raise our kids in our own trauma. And most of us don't repair or recover or fix their traumas until way later in life, until kids have already at least come into your life. And then it's another added thing to the other things that you may or may not have recovered or learned to deal with. So now you have to raise this child with your already trauma. And she just kind of looked at me, and I could see it was one of those things that sucker punched her. And as a social worker, she's heard a lot. She's seen a lot. Um, so to hear it that way and to to think back at her own life, I'm sure, and then to watch her children's decisions and how they raised their kids, and their kids are now raising kids, and you see it. You see that, we struggle and we do the best that we can. And I've told my wife, I have an 8-year-old stepdaughter. Uh, that's the only time I refer to her as a stepdaughter. She's my daughter. I have been with her from 3 years old. And that's one of the things that we try to focus on, is the fact that it will be okay. It's okay to fall down, hurt yourself. That it's okay. Are you okay? And in that, because of that, now one of the first issues was a bloody nose. She freaked out. Mom freaked out. They're both freaking out. Now it's to the point where at 8 years old, she'll feel it come on, or feel it and catch it, and she'll just go take care of it herself. It's not until she's tried to take care of it for a little bit that she's like, hey, I've had a bloody nose for a little while. Can you help me out? And I think that that comes from the fact that she knows that she's okay. You will be okay. We're here. It's okay. We got you. What do you need? And she knows those things and has that in my wife and I as parents. So things, we lost a dog. It didn't, it hit her. It hurt. She cried. She had her times, and she does really well with it. And there'll be times she'll just kind of look sad, and she'll bring up the dog and be like, it makes me sad. And, I talked to her about the good times of, when we would take her to the lake and she would chase her on the beach, and she would giggle and laugh and be like, oh, yeah, that was fun. And I said, see, you're going to be okay. It's all right. That's how we remember that we lose, is remember the good times. Remember the times that we had together, those moments that were good. That's who they are to you.
So
That's how
you're
you
you're
remember.
instilling some good coping skills, like while
Right.
she's young.
Oh, absolutely.
When did you learn the coping skills though? Like, did you really learn how to cope with things, or
My wife can hear you, and she was like, yesterday, still learning. And there is some sincerity to that. There's and I say that because, dealing with, military, um, PTSD, TBI, and military issues, that's one thing. And like, that's a whole different ball of wax to deal with that is an additive to life. Like, life is everybody's going through. And that's just an additive to all the, I don't know what your channel's for, but anyways, the, the crap that we go through. And it being a constant battle is, for me, my daughter is with her father at the moment. That bothers me, and it bothers me because, just like with me, she is almost like a grounding rod. So when life gets hectic and life gets, I get in my box, and it's my daughter can see it. She can see dad's going in his whoa, 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 whoa. And usually she'll just go to mom and be like, what's the matter? And it's not that I'm mad or anything, but my wife will usually tell her, hey, go get me. And whatever it was is gone then. Like, and for me, those are things that help me coping with depression and sadness. I have my service dogs; they're the same way. When I get anxious, they come over and nudge me and like, hey, relax, we're right here. Um, but I think it's something that you have to work at all the time. It's not something that's going to go away. It's not, I'm okay right now, and I am. I'm good. I'm not fine. I'm good. And I'm doing really well right now. However, um, I lose my service dog, that'll hurt. Um, I'll be sad, and I'll probably go through a moment of depression, a time period. Um, I know that when I have to bury my father, I know I'm not going to deal well with that, and that will bring a moment of sadness and depression. Um, However, I in helping my daughter learn to things, have learned to help me recover from childhood traumas of being the young boy that falls down and shit, there's nobody around. I guess I got it, and that's from the time I was a little boy. Um, so there's trauma associated to that. However, in identifying, and I think that's the biggest part that most of us struggle through life with, is being able to identify what it is you're sad at, what it is you are depressed at, what it is that feeling is. Why is it there?
And I could agree with that
You
because,
know, it,
the first step in resolving something is identifying it.
right. And most of us can't even identify it. So I think that's a huge part of keeping it specific. A huge part of male depression is the fact that we don't know how to even talk about it as, or even describe it, what it is, why it is, how come. I don't know, I just am. You are what? I don't feel good. What do you mean you don't feel good? Well, I'm sad. What, what I what do you mean? What are you sad at? And most of the time they start to shut down at that point. You just don't understand. Never mind. It's not that important. I'll fix it. And someone trying to help All right. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah, I know a big one that I've seen in a lot of young men, and shit, I mean, I'm going through it myself right now, is uh, is feeling like a failure.
Right.
So
That's
like
no, that's good. Sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say like with my situation, like I I've had to tell myself like to stop thinking this way, and I'm doing the best I can. But with my personal situation right now of not being able to find a good job,
Right.
like this past month and 10 days now, I have felt like a failure to my family because I'm not able to provide, and that
Right.
has led to some struggles for me. And I'm navigating through them. I apply to at least 3 different places a day. I've had interviews left and right, but something always seems to come up and it doesn't pan out. Whether it's, oh hey, we found someone that's a little more qualified, or sorry we didn't take that posting down, that position filled last week, and I'm just like,
Right.
okay, but I need help.
Right.
So have there ever been times where like you've noticed people like in that mindset, like feeling like a failure and kind of beating themselves down?
Oh yeah. And it was something that um I caught a message from my brother-in-law who passed away a couple years ago to his sister. Um, and it was just a couple few before he had passed away. Um, that was, tell me I'm doing okay. Tell me I'm doing good. And I could tell that it was just life was just kicking his ass. And he needed that reassurance. And I think that that's one of the things, like, here's a prime example. And this will kind of go into what you were talking about, JB, is we go through these things and, my wife has been a Bunny XO fan for quite some time. And she showed me pictures when she first started following her and was like, hey, I really like her. She's beautiful. She's awesome. And this and that. And I saw her as almost that Barbie doll that here's Jelly Roll starting to become, and she's gonna hold on to his coattails and go along. And that's what I viewed her at. Well, then I saw a few interviews with Jelly Roll talking about her. And he says, no, I came to her and said, hey, look, just so we can be open, I do have a little girl, and there may be a woman that is pregnant with my child. Um, and he starts to get choked. You can hear this grown man tattoos on his face. Don't look like he give a shit about nobody, even himself. Starts to get choked. And he said, but she said, look, I don't know if we'll be together, but I'm going to help you get the little girl. And he says she fronted all the money. She pushed all the money in on him. Everything she had was to help him get that little girl. And after hearing those things, now I'm a Bunny XO fan. Like, that bitch is real. She was with him when he was homeless. He didn't have a penny to his pissing name, and pushed all in on him and said, I believe in you. You'll be okay. You'll be all right. We got this. May not be together forever, but we got this. And I'm going to get you that little girl. And
No,
they
I'm a
did.
fan.
Yeah. And like every time I see her and see something that she posts, like one of the things that was kind of recent, Vegas trip that we did with Red Rock Panda. We're down in Vegas. On our way there, my wife is following her Bunny XO bullshit. She goes, Bunny XO's in Vegas. Oh, okay. Oh, wow. She just posted this story. She reads the story, and now Bunny XO will. She's talked about it in an interview and stuff with other people. She went to Vegas and was in Vegas, and they were feeling depressed. She was feeling depressed, and her girlfriend was there, and she was like, "Yeah, it was sad. It was weird. I don't." And she goes, "Let's go look at the track hose, the hookers down on the track." Her girlfriend was like, "Okay." So they drove down the road, and this one gal caught her eye. She was out working, trying to earn that money. And Bunny XO called her over, like, got her number or something, and was like, "Hey, I'll message you in a second, just so you know I'm not a cop." Like, because Bunny was a hooker before being with Jelly Roll and becoming Jelly Roll's wife and who she is today. So as they drive down the road, they pay this hooker. They just give her money. She just Venmoed her a bunch of money to make her day, which made her day. Um, and it can be something as little as that to break you out of your train of thought of the shit's bad, it can't get any worse. Um,
So help someone else to help yourself,
Sometimes that's it.
kind
Like
of.
it is. Sometimes that's how it is, and it sometimes can help. That's what helps me. Um, and I don't know if it's because I took the literal definition of sergeant and wore that on my soul, so to speak. That is who I am. Um, I am a servant. That's what sergeant means. Um, and I wear that. I am a servant. And I wasn't very good at it as a husband to my ex-wife. And I told that to my now wife. I told her, no, what you see,
It's not
no,
always what it was.
no, no. What you've seen on your best day was probably her worst or one of her best. What you saw on your worst day was probably one of her best days. She was like, what? What do you mean? I was mean. I was mean. And I think a lot of it was is my my issues with depression and anxieties and sadness and not being able to say this, this makes me sad, and me looking at it and going, it is something to be sad at. My wife had an episode a couple of days, few days ago, and was like, well, maybe my meds aren't the same. And I said, wait, babe, you have to take it's a second. You're going through some real shit right now. You just lost your grand. We're moving, and we've got other real life things going. Though that's real. You can't get mad at your body for reacting the way that your body does to real events. And I think that that's something that as men we do horribly. Um, we go through real things, whether it be a loss of a coworker because he moves or whatever, or military dudes. We go through a whole different gambit of bullshit that's associated to that kind of thing. But that's real. If those people are people that you confide in or people that you respect and things happen and that you go through those losses, but you don't have a choice. You don't have a choice because you are, or you're in big corporate, whatever.
Right.
You don't have the choice to be like, oh, that's not going to happen. What are you going to do? Throw more money at it? Well, I don't have that. So that ain't an option. And, I think it's quite ironic I bring up funding or finances because money doesn't buy you happiness. Um, and you know, Pitbull. I heard Pitbull do an interview, and somebody had asked him about, you know, does money buy happiness? And he's from Miami, and like he's he's from the ghetto types of Miami. I think he's from like Hialeah or something like that, like the ghettos. And he said, you know, when I was first starting to make my monies, my boy told me that, yeah, I could buy happiness, but there's only one way to buy happiness, and that's to give your money away.
Yeah.
And as soon as I heard that, I was like, ah, well, there you go. You want to buy happiness? Give your money away. And you know that I really think there is something to be said about that, because a lot of us put so much value into things, and and instead of putting that value into people, when you put that value into people, they typically will have a return back to you at something. um and in our social makeup now, we we don't have that ability to, you know, talk to people and be like, hey, yo, bro, because we don't have the social structure that they did back then. Most of us don't know our own neighbors, let alone have friends that are within a couple of few miles that you can call up and be like, yo, bro, I need to borrow your truck, I got stuck. That was common growing up.
Oh yeah, I could
now,
remember
now
dozens of times, especially in college, because I was pretty well acquainted in college. I had a lot of guys I talked to, a lot of like prior service members that were going to college, and I had probably 20, 30 guys that no matter the issue, whether it's I need a truck, I need help doing something, or I need someone to talk to, they were a text or a phone call away and they'd be at my house in 10, 15 minutes. But now, like being all the way out here, I've got maybe four.
I
And
included in that.
yeah, you're one of them. You're one of them, Vin.
Oh shoot, that's crazy. All right.
But yeah, like even of those four, there's a couple of them that like I know they've got their own lives and their own families, so like they do the best they could, absolutely, but they wouldn't always be able to be there. Even with you, Gunny, I told you I'd help you move. It'd just be a 2-day drive for me. I think we only have one other thing we wanted to touch on.
I wanted to touch on he had mentioned about money and people, and so money doesn't buy you happiness, and then spending money correctly with the people, but the inverse can also be detrimental, I believe, because I wanted to touch in and see if you, Jeff, and you, Gunny, if you have any insight on like men's state society today of, like, for example, OnlyFans, porn, stuff like that, where we're so sad and lonely. A lot of people, that are men are being rejected and single, like chronically single. Like some people at our age never been on a date, and they spend thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of dollars on women they'll never meet in person.
So trying to fill that void.
right.
Yep.
And I think a lot of that comes from the fact that it's so available. Um, and that to me, that kind of falls in the confines of the social medias.
Exactly. I was
Um,
about to bring that back up. Social media.
you know, the social medias, there's a gentleman, Two Turnt Tony. I follow him on Instagram. I had originally the gentleman that I was following had no idea he was carrying around a duck, and he was doing cool things for people. That's all that matters to me. He's a good dude. I like that. Well, Two Turn Tony made his money, makes his money, made his initial monies on OnlyFans, and he talks about it in his videos. Like, he doesn't hide it. He throws it at grandma, the money at grandma, and he's
Yeah.
got a word for it.
Right.
Mom, I don't want any of that money. Because it, to her, is just immoral. And dad embraces it, so he has that support.
Because the
You know,
focus is on
I
material.
can't argue completely, right? And and then I look at the things that he does with it, and it's almost the same. All of us, I'm sure, know Mr. Beast. Um, he gets in trouble because he's spending money and drilling water wells in Zimbabwe. Now they're mad. Like, why are you mad? Well, because now they're not. He took care of it. He saw a need and he took care of it. And they're mad that he just took care of it. He just spent the money and put the wells over there. Well, the thing is the video that he made from it, I'm sure, paid for the wells to be there.
Right.
That and what does he gain from, in other than the emotions that you feel when you do serve someone, and when you serve someone from the correct place, from the right place, from the heart, you do have that emotion, that feeling. And I think that feeling and that emotion is the combative, or the combat to depression and sadness. I don't think it's the only. I think it is and I think there are many tools that every person, just like the three of us on this panel, every one of us has different life. We may like playing video games. That's cool, but Jeff may like a different game than me, and you may like a different game than both of us. Well, our depressions and our sadness, they look that same way. My sadness and depression doesn't look the same as what Jeff says or anybody else's does. And so we have to learn to combat and find those things that work for us. For me, it really does help being a servant. That's huge for me. In the school year, I wake up every morning, get the baby up. I call her a baby, still 8 years old. Anyways, get her up out of bed, start her morning routine, and cook breakfast. If she wants to cook breakfast, eggs, bacon, toast, whatever the deal. But I think that those things help me combat my issues. Those things help draw attention away. it helps draw the attention away from me, the internalization of the me problem. And I think that that's a huge part of depression and sadness, is we get to that place or that moment, and things have piled up so big. One, we can't sort them. One, we can't sort them out. Two, we can't even talk about it. So if you do go get help, who are you getting help from? You can't help someone that can't help themselves.
Right.
And what I mean by that, you can't even describe it. What is going on? And those are the things that, like, in a stressful environment or in a stressful time, your body has reactions. How do you react? How and in that, you need to find ways to be able to combat that or be able to
Take
goosefraba,
that
get
moment
over
and
it,
collect yourself.
right?
And
Because I know from me, my problem is I implode and I lose my shit in here, and then I blow it up and blow it out at everybody else, and that's not fair. And usually, and this is where earlier on in the discussion, I think it was even in the quote, the depiction of men being hard. Most of the time, it's not that we're being hard. We're in that moment, and the only for me, the only emotion that will come out, anger, and anger really closely followed by some rage, and ooh, pretty soon we can just rampage Jackson this. I'm game. Let's go. What are you mad at, dude? I don't know. And that's oftentimes what happens with me is I'll have that pink that push the snowball over the edge, and pretty soon I notice it, and it's the size of a semi truck charging right at me. Well, now what the hell? Ugh.
that still goes back to the whole, like, especially for our generation, we were never taught how to express those emotions as a kid. So now as an adult, the sadness, the depression, all those things, we don't know what to do with it, how to identify it, how to deal with it, how to cope with it, and it turns into something else, and usually something nasty.
Right. And those are the things to me that, like, it's easy for me because to me the first thing that starts to happen is I get angry at everything. I'm mad for no reason, and I don't like everything. As soon as I recognize that, gotta wait, time out. What's really going on? Because anger is so bleh.
Yeah.
Anger, the emotion of anger is, it's raw, and it can be at times. However, when you get into that raging anger part, you just start making everybody else around you uncomfortable, and they don't know. And the worst is sometimes, like my wife, she sees it. Hey, what's the matter? Well, I'm desk flipping mad, so I have no. Usually, it's okay for me. I just tell her, hey, just go for a walk right now. Just I need to throw a tantrum, and I do. I take my man tantrum and throw a fit for a second, and I come back and I talk to her and I tell her, hey, I'm sorry. Anger was the easiest and quick. That isn't what's going on. I'm upset. I'm stressed out. It's this thing. It's my dog barking continuously because I'm in here talking and she can't be here to see. And you know, now but it wasn't that I'm angry at you. It was I'm frustrated with something else. And as men, I think that's more times than not our issues. Um, I'll relate my military working time to civilian time or civilians working. It's no different. We go to work in the morning, we come home at night. Sometimes in those times, at a young age, I never take or wear your uniform. Take your uniform off, clean it, launder it, iron it, do those things, but never wear your uniform. Leave your uniform at work. And at a young age, you hear that, and you hear, oh, okay, yeah, that'll be easy. I'll just leave my shit here. And then I won't have to, I'll be able to wear my pajamas to, and you think it's a good idea, but you don't understand or hear what the elders are telling you. What they're telling you is leave your shit at work. Mom and the kids, they don't need to hear about Billy and Bob pissed at each other, somebody pranking one of the other guys at the stealing their sandwiches at work, and it's now your responsibility. Those things don't need to go home. Leave those things at home
Learn to
or at work.
separate.
And when you go home, you be a dad, you be a father, you be a husband, you be a provider, you comfort, you do those things because those are important. Work's just urgent. And there's a huge difference for that. And at a young age, you don't hear those things. You hear, I can leave my uniform. And it doesn't matter what uniform it is, whatever work attire, when you take that home, you wear that. And I don't mean you just wear it, like you wear it. You don't get to decompress. You don't get to process your work issue stuffs. And oftentimes we take it home because our wives are those women that are like, hey, babe, what's the matter? Is everything okay? And pretty soon now you're just dump trucking all of your crap on them. Well, if you do that, that she better be a strong woman and a very, very emotional and independent strong woman because you just offloaded your man onto her shoulders, Jack Tool, and there ain't crap that she can do for it. However, sometimes those are the things for me and my wife we've discussed. I understand if there's something of that nature, babe, there's nothing you can do with it. However, I need to get it off my chest. And she'll say, okay, go ahead, let it rip. And I'll talk to her and she'll be like, uh-huh, yeah. I'm almost like a psychologist. You're talking, oh, yeah, sure. Take little notes. And then when it's over, it's almost like she just goes, okay, we're good, right? And it helps because I was able to shed that crap. But she also knows and gets a precursor like, hey, babe, there ain't nothing you can do with this. Like, it's not shovel the walk, like, here, grab a shovel, help me out, or give me a break. You can't. The things that we deal with at work, our spouses can't do that.
And we
They have
talked
no
about
idea what.
that last week. How like even the power of a good venting session. If you've got someone you can talk to, even if there ain't nothing that can be done about it, just being able to say,
Absolutely.
"Hey,
And
this is what I'm looking at. This is what I'm dealing with."
right, right. And those are the things that I think we lose when we don't have the social skills and lean on social medias for those social skills. In my younger years with my father, um, and he was a hard man. He's a Navy veteran, Vietnam. Um, so there was a hardness about him. There was a edginess about him. And as a grown man, I know where it comes from. It comes from his military experience and him not being able to process things. However, as a young boy, we would go to the coffee shop and all the older gentlemen would sit around and drink their coffee, discuss what was going on for the day or the week or what events every one of them had. And in the military, the older generation kind of had that same thing. The masters of guns always went in and sat around with the captains and the older gunnies and mass sergeants and they'd all sit around and have they didn't call them meetings, but they told us they were meetings. But they were talking their lives. They were having their men discussions. And I think that culturally has gone away through social media drastically.
I would agree.
We don't sit around. We don't sit around as men and just bullshit and talk things. You know, my wife this, my wife that. Most of the time, those issues that we bring up when we're with the guys, that locker room talk, is just that. It's just us having that opportunity, that ability to get off our chests. My old lady was ragging on me and nagging at me up this, that, and the other thing. And she just won't freaking quit. Well, when you hear every other buddy that you have stand there and laugh at you, you're like, what's so funny? Like, what? You think you're the only one, dude? My wife does the same thing. Your wife does too? Mine does too. And all your buddies are standing there going, yeah, you're just having a bad day, dude. Yeah, you're right. I am just having a bad day. It gives us that opportunity to shed some of that shit. Part of our problem is we don't have those opportunities. We don't sit and break bread with each other anymore. We we're too busy. I've got too many things going. I have this thing, that, and the third thing. You know, the example I gave earlier with wife's, she's known that we've been moving a month, and now all of a sudden has appointments and things, and I can't. And but the yo, when you have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 friends like that, that you all sit down and drink coffee with as dudes, you may have 2, 3, or 4 of them go, bro, I can't. I got the, but 2 or 3 of them are going to go, no, I'll be there, bro. I got you. And there's a camaraderie that's built amongst that. Well, as men, as we've progressed with social media being pushed as hard as it is, we've gone away from those moments. We've gone away from those times of being able to sit down and just vent your shit.
And have those
And sometimes,
conversations.
right.
Which,
And usually you hear the best advice from your other friends that you didn't think you'd even hear. Like, oh, all right. Well, I guess I am just having a bad day. I just stubbed my toe. Let's not make this a bigger thing than it is. You're right. And we take an opportunity to process those moments of things that typically pile on us. Well, in today's society with social media, never having that avenue, that vent, either A, we get on social media and think that that's going to be the vent, and nobody sees it. Nobody looks at it. Nobody gives you a thumbs up. Nobody comments. Nobody says, hey, it's okay. It's no big deal. Well, that just adds to the problem that you're venting about. So you're just compounding the issue. Whereas if it was real and if we were sitting in front of each other, even if we were sitting in front of each other like we are now, that's a step forward from posting it on social medias. It's a step above, I'm having a bad day.
yeah, which I
Well, if you
think
don't have those,
links back to what you were asking, Vin, like how we don't have the social skills and guys are shedding out hundreds of dollars to women they'll never meet and things like that. Like, it's because there's no more of that face to face interaction. Young men don't
Mhm.
know how to talk to girls. Young men don't know how to talk to other young men. Like, they just, they're so used to talking through a screen that they lack those social skills. They send money to whoever on whatever site, like thinking, oh yeah, like this is my friend. Like I subscribe to them every month and I send them $50 here and there. Like that's my friend. Like no, that's not a friend. That's someone who probably doesn't even know your name.
Yeah,
And I
doesn't
think it's
know
like,
anything about you. And to me, like that was something that I was different. We talked a little bit earlier about the fans in my page. There's not a fan that you could look at that was a regular that you couldn't bring up their name and be like, who is this person? I'll tell you who they are. I'll tell you where they live. I'll tell you they're married. have kids, they don't have kids, they do this, they don't do that. This is their thing. This is their. I would talk to them. I would give them that avenue to communicate those things, those times, those frustrations, those daily tasks that we go through, and we just jack it up to it's just life. It's just the day.
I know a time or
And it
two
is.
I sat there and talked to you for a while about stuff I was going through, and you're just like, "Hey, man,
Oh,
like I'm
absolutely.
here."
Absolutely. And most of the time, that's what we need. And it's been, I guess, a recent revelation for me. And I say that because our Vegas trip, um, I brought up other, like, I'm having issues with this. And I think that because I was in the military, it gets ignored. And it's not a big deal because when you had ADD in the military, nobody has a choice. You're gonna sit down, you're gonna listen to me because I'm the gunny. I talk, you listen. Doesn't matter if it takes 4 hours to get to the couple minute safety brief that you needed. You just deal with it. I brought that up, and I was in Vegas, and I had an episode. People were touching me. I was like the negative energy just compiled up, and I had a physical reaction to it. I couldn't put my finger on my emotions, but they were. I was not reacting, and I let pretty much just lock myself in a room to sleep it off. And when I come home, I get medication for it, and it starts to help. In that process, I called my old psychologist. I'm in counseling, been in counseling since 2007, and I keep pretty regular. Well, I called him. I reached out to him. And when I did, he kind of recalled who I was and and some of my stuff is childhood. And he says, what I need you to do is I need you to write a letter to the 3-year-old you, letting him know what the 3-year-old you needs to hear. I have spent a numerous amount of time cycling through that letter. And what I mean by that is, what does 3-year-old me need to hear to be able to know that as an adult, I'm going to be okay. It's okay. It may not be good. It may not be the roses and the butterflies and those things, but you will be okay.
That's an
And that's the
interesting
one thing that
experiment to have people do. Like, if you're
right,
going through a difficult time, like, have them sit down, write a letter to your younger self, and tell them what they need to know. Never
right.
heard that one
And
before.
when
That's
you
interesting.
and when you listen and hear what they are saying, it it's one of those like, hell, what does the 3-year-old me need to hear? What does the 12-year-old, the 10, it doesn't matter, put a date on it. What does that person need to hear from you? And all I kept reaching back to was, be okay. It will be okay. Because that's one of the things that I look at is being a driver of anxiety, is the unknowing and and trying to have everything in order and ducks in a line, as we're always told in our younger years. Make sure you have your ducks in a row. Those things we have this expectation on. And when those things are missed, we don't know how to cope with those emotions that are associated. And it it took me growing up, and even still, like my wife said earlier, it was yesterday. No, it's an everyday thing
Oh, it's
because
absolutely an everyday
it,
thing. Absolutely.
because today it may taste like this, but tomorrow it has a total different. Tomorrow your fuel pump goes out, your check that you was expecting from some settlement or from insurance, it was supposed to be there today, but it's not going to be there. It got lost in turn to sender, and they received it today, and now you found out that your fuel pump's down and you're not going to get a check 2 3 weeks. And well, that's what it tastes like today, but then tomorrow it's a whole different flavor served up for you. I'm guessing we're burning your time.
Not a big deal. But I think we did touch on everything we wanted to for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Looking over, I think the only thing we really missed was like how depression can lead to addiction.
Ugh, as I suck on my vape. And I think that that's one of the biggest um, downfalls to learning those skills young is that as you develop, because you don't have that skill for this thing, that then as you grow, well, you didn't have the skill for that thing, and oh, you damn sure ain't gonna have it for this thing. Plus the fact that you didn't have it for that thing. Oh, and now we got another thing that, and you didn't. So you get to your teenage years, and you have all of these things that have kind of drug around like a chain that you just drag it around because it attached itself to me. I don't know how to deal with it, and you continue until it gets to a point where you can't drag it, and then you just kind of stand there and now what? Now what am I supposed to do? And that's where we get as men to that stage of where I think those missing links and those missing coping skills in our younger causes a a move to a chemical imbalance within physically, because you were supposed to be able to cope with it this way, and doing that it changes how your brain reacts to it. And when you were supposed to be getting dopamine, instead you're getting whatever the opposite of it is. So that's counterproductive. And in that we we carry those things, and we have this chemical imbalance because we didn't teach our bodies physically to, I need, this is a moment that I need a little boost of dopamine. So in that, I'm going to be okay. I got this. Those words of encouragement, we don't have that. We, because we didn't learn it. Well, we start to self medicate. And when you do, you start to drink. When you drink, well, that just keeps, oh wait, did anybody know that alcohol is depressant? Oh, it is. So, and it's legal. Hmm. So you can just run to the grocery store and get you alcohol.
Or an instant fix.
And yeah, and initially you feel that it's gone, it's away. But then as time progresses, the more you drink, more it compounds that depression that you have been escaping. And then what happens is what my cousin did. He drank himself to death at like 34. Um, and he literally drank himself to death without realizing that's where he was headed. That's what he was doing.
And that
And
happens
where did it
way
come?
more often than it should. I've known a good handful of
Absolutely.
people who have drank themselves silly and there was nothing that could be done to save him.
Yep. And he passed away in his sleep. Drinks on the counter. Like he had a blood alcohol content that it could kill most people, but it was normal for him. And I think that it had to do with his parents being divorced. Well, his father was a hard man, is a hard man. He's a hard dude. And I think that caused him problems in his development and in growing up and not knowing how to cope with the little things when we're little children. The little things turn into big things when we grow up. And those big things, if you didn't learn how to do the little things, the big things are even bigger.
Yep.
So,
Snowball
and
effect.
most just, yep, and most just turn to the bottle and hey, it's legal. Let's go get drunk. It'll make you feel better. And then you end up either A, waking up going, wait a minute, I'm way too far gone for this to be good. I need to change. Or you don't recognize it, you just keep on. And then, it's no different to me than the person that has had too much, takes too many pills. Um, and those things happen.
Because it's an external source. You're not actually touching on the actual source that's making you lonely or depressed or sad. You're depending on something external while your original problem is never fixed. So it's this cycle until you die
And
prematurely.
that's the only right. And that's the only guarantee that is that we're all going to die. That life will end at some point in time, and it has its own timeline. None of us get to pick. We got averages. However, you know, there's those like my cousin that passed away at 34, or you got those 100 and however many years old still living. No, but you ain't living forever. That ain't happening.
Yeah. Well, I think
I
we've
mean,
hit the end.
yeah, but also the only last part we're missing is usually our self testimonies. Usually at the end we give a self testimony of like of this topic. So today, this week's was about sadness. So usually we each give like, a uh, little testimony of like how did sadness affect you and if you're able to cope with it and deal with it.
I feel like we've hit on
Yeah.
that throughout the conversation. Uh,
Okay.
but I mean, for me personally, I've dealt with it a lot. I went through all the stages of it. I hit the bottle for a long time. Never really learned how to deal with stuff, and as I'm getting older, I'm learning to deal with it through like I've been going to therapy, talking to my wife, and the main way I really get through it is I just try to make each day better than the last, even if it's something super small. Like it could be, my neighbor's dog got out and I was the one that caught him. Something small. I helped
Right.
somebody today, made my day a little better. Tomorrow I'll try and help someone again or try and do something to better myself, whether it's exercise, what have you.
I think that that's something that we miss as well as everything else that we've talked about is recognizing and understanding the small accomplishments. Um, there's a famous speech that you can want to change the, and it's a Navy SEAL who's giving a college. And if you want to change the world, and he gives examples, and the first one that he gives is start by making your bed. Start by making your bed because no matter what happens, you've accomplished one thing. You made your bed. And he goes on to say that off of those small accomplishments within 6 generations, you can change the world. So I think that's something that we miss as men. Take accountability for the little things that you look at and go, it's not that big deal. It is a big deal because if you wouldn't have got your dog or the neighbor's dog, those little things we need to take it. And we're so quick to brush them off because I'm just a dude. Nah, good job, dude. Like, and those are things that I think that we miss back in those coffee shops, back hanging out with dudes and having our moment with dudes. What'd you do today? I brushed my fucking teeth. That was all I could get. Sorry. And like sometimes that's all you need to hear. And when you hear it, you're like, yeah, you're right. I did brush my teeth today. Right on. For me, my testimony, I'm a two-time suicide failure. Um, I've attempted suicide twice, and in both times, I went through those moments of not being able. Why? I don't know. Hell, I don't know. And going through a lot of self-healing to understand that most of what I was going through is just life. Um, and I just didn't know how to process it. As a 46-year-old man, I look back at my times and yeah, I'd messed that up, but I'm okay. Uh, I I made it. I'm a pretty good dude, and everybody has bad days. Um, but try to help out when I can and when I see it. When I see those moments, when I see those dudes that are just not right, and you see them, go to the gas station. Go to the gas station and hang out for 20 minutes. I'll guarantee you'll see a dude that comes in and you can see him. You can see the weight of the world is just snuffing this dude out. Say, hey, what's up, dude? How you doing today? Smile. Because that may be the only good person to person interaction that man has. And so many of us travel through. Not very.
What about you, Vin?
Um, Mine was specifically in 2019 to 2022, so it was a 3 year long battle. Um, I was supposed to take over the family business. I was seeing someone, and just kind of everything was falling apart. And I was like, you know what? What's the point? I had everything. Like, I'm good. Mine was kind of a verse of depression of like, oh, I was happy. Like, I've already been at the top. Like, I just think everything's gonna go downhill because like problems are gonna happen. And I'm like, let's just end it here. I like, basically, I guess you could look at it either way of like a fear or like a cowardice of living life anymore. Of like, okay, it's just gonna be problem after problem. It's only gonna get worse, right? And that might have been depression talking. And I tried hanging. What stopped me was my baby brother. I thought about him, and he comes into my room a lot, and I'm like, you don't want someone like that, 3, 4, 5 years old, seeing something like that. So I stayed, and my family and friends all pitched in to and put in their own effort, money, etc., and time to really stick out for me. And each year it would come back, right? It's a constant battle. Um, the second time um, was by accident. I was in college, and depression hit me like crazy. But this time I just laid in bed 3 days, vegetable, no eating, no water. By the third day, I didn't know this till later, but you can only survive without water for about 3, 4, 5 days. Yeah. So by the third day, something just told me. I don't know what it was spiritually or something, but I was like, I need to call someone. So I called my best friend, Cullen, and he knew every single step. So I was in San Antonio, he's in New Braunfels. So that's a 30-45 minute drive. This is 10 p.m., 11 p.m. He immediately drives down. He's like, I'm coming. Yeah, and I was like, hey, can you just pick me up food? He comes in the house. He's like, no, we're in the apartment. He's like, I'm getting you to Whataburger. So, and the craziest part was getting dressed and getting ready was the hardest thing. Like I was out of breath putting on clothes and my shoes. Like I was like, oh, this is bad. And and then the third year, the last year, I tried to OD, and luckily I had a best friend, Glenn, and he just happened to be there and like kind of somehow accidentally stopped me. And then my sister heard about it again, and they got me to like the psych ward, and I can't tell you exactly what stopped it, but pretty much it was all that support, the love, and the constant like I I kept fighting it, right? I didn't like of course I gave up, but at the same time it's like, okay, something's still keeping me here. So I'm just gonna keep fighting it. And I don't know if my brain like changed and morphed for me to be like and somehow I just got rid of it because it knew like, okay, this is a bad thing. I shouldn't keep this thing. And then it kind of just stopped. And that but that 3 years is a big reason of why I'm doing this, right? It's like I understand what it's like to be rejected, to be chronically single, well, okay, no, to be single, uh, to be go through a hard, work life or family life, and then go through the depression and suicide, um, and to be able to make it back out because of all the love and support. It's like, okay, let me do what I can to give back to the world, you know, you know.
It's
So,
like I said in the first episode. As long as I can reach
right.
one person, then this whole thing is worth it to me.
Yep. So,
Absolutely.
okay. Well, let's wrap it up here. So tonight was the sadness and depression chapter. Next week we will talk about fear. Jeff, if you want to end it with the motto.
Absolutely. For those of you listening on Spotify or watching on YouTube, don't forget that we do have a Discord server. It is titled the Brothers Bonfire. It is a place that if you're looking for a community of people that you can just talk to, maybe game with, whatever you need, it is there for you. If you're on Spotify, it should be in the description. If you're on YouTube, it will be in the description below the video. We are live every Sunday, and there's usually a little hangout session afterwards where you guys can stick around, talk to us, talk to whatever guest we have on. And if you want the link, all are welcome to join.
All right. Thank you, Gunny, for being our second guest.
Most of the time it's kind of corny or looked at as being corny, but I will say this: hitting that thumbs up, that subscribe button, turn your alerts on. Those things are free, folks. If you enjoy the content of these gentlemen, come back, hit the thumbs up, hit the like, the subscribe, the whatever button for whatever platform you're on. Do it because it's free. It doesn't cost you anything.
He's right.
Yes, sir.
But thank you, Gunny. It was a
Hey,
pleasure
Gunny.
having you on here.
Absolutely. Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
I'm gonna go ahead.